1 minute.
All right, 2 minutes. Where's your guy? In the corner? Right there. Right there. Okay. I want to be helping.
You ready? One camera needs to come in, and then we're going to go. You ready? That's the blowers. Turn off the air blower system, and we'll be ready. One more camera. One more camera. Hustle.
What are we waiting? No, you go first.
All right, Senator. Thank you.
Ready?
Ready, yes.
Are we good?
Good. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. This is a red letter day in the United States Senate. A bill passed committee with bipartisan support. And let me tell you a little bit about the legislation that Senator Corker and Cardin just passed through the committee. It's one thing to introduce a bill. It's another thing to make it law. And I've never seen a better combination than Bob Corker and Ben Cardin when it comes to foreign policy. The Foreign Relations Committee is a model for the rest of us. If you're looking for something that's working in Washington, the Armed Services Committee was 27-0. The legislation regarding Iran, North Korea, and Russia was 97-2. It went through the Foreign Relations Committee. This committee can get to yes. Bob is a natural reconciler of different opinions, and this is a big day for me, a big day for the Taylor Force family. I think a step forward toward rationality in the Mideast. And I just want to congratulate Senator Corker and his committee, but tell you a little bit about Taylor Force. We just passed through the committee, I think, 16-5 or 17-4. I don't know the numbers. He can tell you. The Taylor Force Act. Taylor Force was 29 years old, a West Point graduate, class of 2009. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan as a field artillery officer till 2014. He was on a Vanderbilt University graduate school program in Israel when he was stabbed and killed on March 9, 2016. He left behind his father, Stuart, his mother, Robbie, sister, Kristen. His mother and father live in South Carolina. Again, he was a graduate student at Vanderbilt studying in Israel. So it's kind of odd how paths cross. Anyway, he'd gone to study global entrepreneurship. He was in Jaffa, a city by the Mediterranean Sea. He was enjoying himself with his colleagues, and he was stabbed by Bashar Masala, an Islamic terrorist who murdered Taylor Force. Masala was shot dead by the Israeli police. He stabbed other people. Thank God they survived. He was living under the Palestinian Authority. His body was sent back to his home area. He was praised as a heroic martyr. He was given the status, the pride of all the young Palestinians, and others were urged to follow in his footsteps. This is the man who just killed Taylor Force. Body sent back to the West Bank, given the title, the pride of all young Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority pays families of like this a lump sum of money and lifetime payments. So if you're a young Palestinian, the best thing maybe you can do for your family in terms of income streams is to be a terrorist. That's sick. That's inconsistent with peace. They paid $144 million in martyr payments, and if you're serving a sentence in an Israeli prison for being a terrorist, your family gets a payment while you're in jail, and when you get out of jail, you get a honorary rank in the Palestinian security forces based on how long you've been in jail. The longer you're in jail, the more vicious the crime, the more money you and your family get. That's inconsistent with peace. That's inconsistent with decent society. He was called a heroic martyr at the funeral. It just goes on and on and on. We've got video of the funeral, and it will literally make you sick the way the Palestinian Authority praised this vicious murder. Here's what the president of the Palestinian Authority said: "I will not compromise on this issue. I'd rather lose my job, even if I have to leave my position," he declared this week, a couple weeks ago, in response to U.S. and Israel pressure. "I will not compromise on the salary of a martyr or a prisoner." So I'm going to turn it over to Bob, but here's what I would say. That a two-state solution I support. I would like the Palestinian people to live in dignity, have their own destiny in their hand, elect their leaders side by side with a secure state of Israel. I do believe that peace can never be achieved as long as governments reward their young people for being terrorists. At the end of the day, the payment to people who kill Taylor Force or people like Taylor Force is inconsistent with peace and is such a crime against young Palestinians for their own government to incentivize murder and terrorism. We give over $300 million a year of aid to the Palestinian Authority. This bill, crafted by Senator Corker and myself and others, is going to cut off all U.S. funding to the Palestinian Authority until they change their laws which reward terrorism, which reward people for killing a young man like Taylor Force. Why did he die? What did he do wrong? Nothing. And I don't want his death to be in vain. Senator Gerber brought me this issue, explaining to me the Palestinian law is so corrupt. They have a schedule in their law as to how much you receive based on how long you are in jail and the payments you receive if you're killed and become a martyr. It is a sick system. It needs to change. This legislation suspends all payments to the Palestinian Authority until they change this perverted and sick practice. It allows USAID payments to go to the Palestinian people, but there has to be a certification from the Secretary of State that the Palestinian Authority is making progress on this problem. We carve out a hospital in East Jerusalem that's basically the only hospital for the Palestinian women and children. Our goal is not to punish women and children. Our goal is to change a practice that I think corrupts the Palestinian youth, inconsistent with peace. This was a product of compromise and negotiation. I introduced the legislation about a year and a half ago. Senator Corker started using the committee process. I could have done this through the appropriations process. I did not want to do it. I wanted to see if the Senate could work, and it did. And the original bill came out better. We cut off all funding to the Palestinian Authority. We allow money to flow to the people of the Palestinian people with the condition their government get better, and we exempt the hospital from this conflict because what good is there in punishing women and children for something that they did not do? So it would not have happened without Senator Corker and Senator Cardin. This committee, above all others in the United States Senate, seems to work, and it starts at the top. So I want to thank you on behalf of the Force family. This is a big day. We're not there yet. This bill came out with a lot of bipartisan support. That support will grow on the floor, and one day it will become law, and my goal is to leverage better outcomes. This is not inconsistent with peace. This is a step toward peace. The Palestinian leadership needs to understand that the American people are very generous, that we want to help you, but you have to help us in the process. I cannot look the Taylor Force family in the eye and say, giving money to the Palestinian Authority at this point in time, given the laws they have in place that led to the death of your son, is a good investment for peace or the American taxpayer. Thank you, Senator Corker. On behalf of the Taylor Force family, thank you and all the members of your committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be brief. I know you have some questions. I first want to thank Lindsey, Senator Graham, for bringing this issue forth. I agree with everything he just said relative to the legislation, and I want to also thank Sandra Gerber, who came into my office and laid out the evolution in this law. I think many people don't understand that these laws have been in place. They've been put in place by presidential decree. I think we know that the government there is not really functioning in an appropriate way. I think Abbas is 12 years in on a 4 or 5 year term at present, and these laws were then put in place by the president himself. It's continued to evolve. To put some just a little more context here, if you commit a fairly low-level terrorist act, you get paid $400 a month. If you commit a very egregious terrorist act, you murder an Israeli or someone else, and you get a 30-year sentence, you get $3,500 a month. In interviews with prisoners in Israeli jails who had committed these acts, they clearly stated their goal was to ensure that they did something egregious enough to at least get a 5-year sentence where the payment is stepped up. This is sick. This is sick. And what Lindsey laid out relative to how this person was heralded in his own country is, again, sick. It's sick. I met Stuart Force, Taylor's dad. We've talked extensively. I'm glad that the United States Senate today and the committee on a 17-4 vote honored his life by making a change that will affect so many other people. Taylor Force, as Lindsey mentioned, not only was a native of South Carolina, but he went to Vanderbilt University in Tennessee. So it is interesting how lives become interwoven. But our actions today, I think, speak to the fact that what has happened here will hopefully, when passed, prevent other people from having the same fate. An innocent person going about their activities in an innocent way, being murdered by someone who's being incented to do that by their own government. So I am proud of what we have done today. I want to thank Lindsey for his passionate leadership on this issue. I want to thank him for his passionate leadership on the Russia issue, which again ended up passing the Senate 98-2 and passed the House with only 3 no votes. And I like the way that we are able to work together to make good things happen for our nation relative to foreign policy. I do wish everyone here could have seen the markup today. Yeah. Pretty incredible. A very open process where people expressed opinions. We came to a resolve that, as Senator Graham mentioned, I think has made this bill a better bill. It's a bill now that is very crisp. It's surgical. It's meant to change the behavior of the Palestinian Authority, as he has mentioned so eloquently, but not intended to hurt the Palestinian people that have nothing to do with this law that's been put in place by their government. So with that, let me stop. Let me thank Lindsey one more time for his passionate leadership on this issue. And let me thank my colleagues, Senator Cardin, who's worked with us, others on the committee who caused today's passage to be what it is, and I do look forward to becoming law. Yes, ma'am.
Senator, can you run through the amendments adopted, the 3 interlock amendments, and then the second degree amendment? It wasn't clear to me exactly.
Can I do that when other people who don't care so much about the details are not having to listen? You're the best at that, but we will provide you with all of that. It does have a 1-year escrow, so that, in fact, it gives them time to change their behavior, and the Palestinian people understand that this is not designed to cut off aid to them. It's designed to cut behavior. I think that would be the most important amendment that was added. Yes, sir.
So the president signed the Russia, Iran, North Korea sanctions yesterday, and then this morning he said, our relationship with Russia is at an all-time and very dangerous low. You can thank Congress, the same people who can't even give us health care. Is Congress to blame for our relationship with Russia right now? What do you make of that statement?
You know, I try not to respond to tweets, as you know.
Statement from the president.
Yeah, I understand. I will respond to this one and state that, look, the relationship that we have with Russia is solely because of Putin. The activities, the things that he has taken against Western democracy, the way he has tried to reshape a map. It's been U.S. policy for 70 years that Europe will be whole, democratic, and free. He's altered that map. What he's done in Syria, what he's done as an affront to the American people to try to have an effect on the election outcomes here is had to be spoken to. I think we did it in a very appropriate manner. I'm proud of the legislation. And I'm actually very proud of the fact that Congress continues to assume its rightful role in foreign policy. I think the congressional review component, which, by the way, was a piece of your original legislation, again, we massaged it to a degree, but the fact is I think this is a place where Congress needs to stand side by side with the administration to ensure that Congress's prerogatives also are adhered to. So I'm proud of the legislation, and I know there's some frustration. I get it. I know Lindsay and I are both frustrated about the health care issue. I mean, we would have liked to have an outcome, but I think there's no reason to tie the two together. We acted, I think, in the country's national interest in doing this. Putin, through his actions, is the one that has taken this relationship back to levels we haven't seen since 1991. And it's up to him to change his behavior to move it in a different direction.
Senator?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a two-part question? First off, can I get your reaction to the leaking of the transcripts of the conversations between the president and other heads of state, and what the ramifications of that could be from a foreign policy standpoint? And then also, there's a report that they're considering, or President Trump is considering, putting General McMaster to head the strategy in Afghanistan, whether or not you think that would be a good decision.
I'll let Lindsay speak to the second part. I'll speak to it also, and then I'll come back to the first. But go ahead.
As to the leaking, I think it really is a disservice to the president this happened. Can you imagine being president of the United States, having a conversation with a foreign leader, and that conversation being divulged to the media? It's just not fair to President Trump. The person who did this may think they have a noble outcome in mind, but that is just chaos. You just can't have people in the government working for the president picking and choosing what to leak. That's just wrong, and I hope we find out who the person is and they get punished. As to Afghanistan, it's up to the president. It's Trump's war. It's not Obama's war. If we do not listen to General McMaster and people like him, who have been fighting this war for 15 years, and adapt our policies, we're going to fail in Afghanistan. We need more troops. General Nicholson, I think, has done a fine job from my point of view. But President Trump is going to make a decision, and he will own it. If you do not add capability to the fight, it's going to get worse, not better. What you saw in Iraq is going to happen in Afghanistan tenfold. It's a place now where international terrorism is on the rise. ISIL has a foothold. We're trying to dislodge them. So 3,000 or 4,000 American troops with some air capability we don't have today will turn the tide of battle. Every soldier over there is an insurance policy against our homeland being attacked. My big fear is if you don't listen to the generals and you try to make this up as you go, as Obama and Biden did, you're going to wind up losing Afghanistan like we did Iraq, and the consequences to America are worse. This is the place where 9/11 was planned. I can't think of a more beneficial outcome to international terrorism than to drive us out of Afghanistan because we don't have the will to get it right. I'm sorry it's taken so long. This is a generational struggle. The president gave an eloquent speech in Poland. Do we have the will to protect our values and stand up to people who would destroy our way of life? The test of that will is in Afghanistan. They're going to try to break our will. The Afghan security forces need help. They're not where they need to be. They don't have an air force. So the outcome in Afghanistan is directly related to homeland security. It's not about democracy in Afghanistan. It's about international terrorism using Afghanistan to strike us at home and abroad and our allies. And if you don't understand that, I think you're misunderstanding what the generals are trying to tell you. I know that General Biden, General Obama, General Graham are not really good generals. General Bannon won't be any better.
So I'll be a little briefer. I'm used to this, but look, in Afghanistan, what's happening is everyone is hedging their bets.
Yes.
Everyone. So because the region has no idea what our policy is going to be, many of them are backing the Taliban. We know that, Pakistan, we know for a fact, is doing so. Russia's beginning to play, we think. Iran's definitely playing. And so we've got to have a policy that is sustainable. I really appreciate and understand the President's frustration. I have a lot of respect for Nicholson also, and I spent a lot of time talking through Afghanistan with him. But whatever comes out of this, it's got to be something that we know to be sustainable and something that we believe is going to change their trajectory, because as long as the region believes we're 6 months away from stepping out, or we're 6 months away from giving up, they're going to continue to do all they can to play both sides. And that playing both sides is what puts U.S. soldiers most in harm's way. On the first issue, I had a long conversation with President Trump last Friday morning. I was aware of the initial change that was getting ready to take place. I have encouraged the President, and now I encourage that through General Kelly, to fire every single person that's had anything whatsoever to do with backbiting, undermining other people for their own benefit, or leaking, and not to be cautious about it. If there's even a thought that somebody was involved, get rid of them. I mean, it is unseemly what is happening at the White House right now, or what has been happening. Again, it appears that General Kelly is taking charge. And I say this not to say anything against the first Chief of Staff. I don't know if he was ever given that authority in the first place. But to have people there that are leaking information, that are talking to each of you to try to have their public policy implemented because they're getting you to argue on their behalf, and we know it's happening, these people should be fired. They should be out of government. They're disloyal to our government, and I hope that that's what's going to happen.
We got to vote.
Yeah.
One last thing about General Nicholson is not going to be able to win in Afghanistan under the current construct. The rules of engagement have to change, and you need more capability. It doesn't matter what general is in charge if you don't have the capability to win. So I just really am upset to hear that it's a General Nicholson problem when it really is a force structure problem, an attitude problem. And as Bob said, no White House can function this way. We need order out of chaos, and start firing some people would probably be the right signal.
Senator Corker, to your point about release, are you concerned at all about the tone and the tenor of those transcripts, especially in your...
I haven't seen the transcript, so you guys are sharing with me constantly things I don't know. So I will respond to that question once I actually read the transcripts. Let me say this caveats issue. Last time I was in Afghanistan, I don't know if you realize this, but President Obama had a caveat that said we could not fire on Al-Qaeda. Do you understand that? I mean, the policies that we have had in place in Afghanistan are ludicrous. We could not take actions against Al-Qaeda, only the Taliban, and only under certain circumstances.
I think that's actually reversed.
So I do hope the policies will change, as has mentioned. I'll talk to y'all again maybe in the hallway. I apologize that we've got to vote.
7 weeks here, the government might shut down here. You guys have both expressed concern about funding for the State Department, some of the cuts there. Can you just briefly address the concern about that and how that is in peril on September 30th?
I don't think there are no cuts to the State Department because there is.
That's what the President proposed.
I think y'all understand the President's budget typically is a nice piece of paper that people read and move on to the budgeting process. I'll see y'all later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Call the vote.
I was looking forward to getting the answer to that question. I I was gonna go look at your story. Well, the staff is but haven't